We'll start with the Fast Five. And the first question is, what's your name?
My name is Adam Phomin.
And what's your farm's name?
We're called Hoof and Beak.
And where are you located?
We are in the Ottawa Valley, Eastern Ontario, Canada.
I'm trying to think if we've had anyone from Ontario, and I think we have, but we always need more, right?
It sounds like most of the ranchers in Canada are out west.
Right, I agree. Moving east is tougher in Canada, and we haven't had anyone right on that east coast.
Yeah.
But trying to work that way. And then, what livestock species do you graze?
We've got a resident hair sheep flock. With them, we can include the two llamas, Braulio and Leandro, that hang out with the sheep. And then we bring in some cattle just for the growing season. We bring them in the spring, and then we eat them in the winter.
Oh, sounds like an excellent plan.
I don't want to keep them over the winter.
Dr. Sparks, Dave Sparks, the late Dave Sparks, was big into Kikos. And he always said, we eat all we can, then we sell the rest.
That's us too.
Yeah. And what year did you start grazing animals?
We got our first sheep 2022, so we're pretty new to this. We got our chickens in 2019, and then we've slowly learned from there. We're new.
Oh, yeah. Welcome to the Grazing Grass Podcast, the podcast dedicated to sharing the stories of grass-based livestock producers and exploring regenerative practices that improve the land, animals, and our lives. I'm your host, Gal Hardage. And each week we'll dive into the journeys, challenges, and successes of producers like you, learning from their experiences and inspiring each other to grow and graze better. Whether you're a seasoned grazer or just getting started, this is the place for you. If you're looking to grow your profits, elevate your grazing operation, or just want to get your hands dirty, Noble Research Institute can help. No matter the size, location, or scope of your operation, Noble's 2- and 3-day educational courses were designed to build real-world skills in regenerative ranching. Noble Land Essentials helps you harness the power of your soil for better forage, better livestock, and better returns. Noble Grazing Essentials demonstrates how to optimize forage use to get the best from your livestock and grazing land. Noble Profitability Essentials can help you improve your business skills with financial tools to maximize your ranch's profitability. And Business of Grazing offers ways to make your grazing strategies work for your bottom line. Scholarship and grant opportunities are available for those who qualify. Visit noble.org to learn more about these courses and enroll today. For 10 seconds today, for the farm and for the podcast, we're going to talk about other podcasts. On Working Cows this week, Clay just had Dallas Mount on for this week's episode. It's a really good episode. And Jared with Ranching Returns just had kind of a round table on the past 2 episodes. I've been talking about doing a round table for a long time. I haven't done it. So very pleased with those episodes. I thought they were really good. So I thought, hey, I just want to tell my listeners about them. If you don't catch all those episodes, you might go catch those. I know for a lot of podcasts, I just pick and choose what episodes I listen to. So I just wanted to recommend those. And with that, our podcast today, we're going to talk about Adam's journey. And then for the overgrazing, it's a little bit different topic today, but I think it's a good one that's relative to us. Let's get back to Adam. Now, growing up, did you always think you'd have a farm?
Oh God, no. I was raised in the city, in the capital city of Canada, in Ottawa, and I did the typical city things. Agriculture was at least 2 generations removed from me, and there was really no connection to it at all. And the thought of raising food, to be honest, the thought of being outside a lot was not even on my radar as a child.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
So what got it on your radar?
Well, so I guess it's a long story, and it all kind of comes together at the end if you don't mind me going too long here. But I grew up around fitness. For some reason, I've always been interested in learning about fitness, teaching fitness, that's been my whole career. I've been coaching fitness for 25 years, went to university for kinesiology, taught the military, taught police. I've owned my own gym since 2012. And, generally going along with health and fitness is nutrition. And, for my youth, nutrition, what was important about nutrition was just making sure I got enough protein so that, it supported my exercise and I could do what I wanted to do athletically. And then as I've gotten a little bit older and, maybe a turning point, which is probably common for other people in 2020 was a little bit of a time to dig in a little bit more. And that led me into more of the, food production side. Where is our food coming from? How is it getting there? And who's raising it? And that led me down the route. And, it started with chickens and, Justin Rhodes a little bit. And then from there, it became Joel Salatin and Greg Judy and, all of the grazing experts. And now I'm just trying to take in enough that I can, become a farmer without having any experience being a farmer.
Right. As a first generation, basically, farmer coming back to the farm or getting started.
Yeah.
So as you came to it from nutrition, eating healthy, you took the step somewhere in there to raising your own food versus just finding a farmer and source it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, there's kind of two sides to that. And one, I think it's hard to find well-raised food that's not too greenwashed. I was chatting with a friend yesterday and she was saying, well, how do I source regenerative beef? And I'm like, you gotta go to the farm. They're going to say that it's grass-fed and they're going to say that it's this and that. And like, unless you know the questions to ask, which I didn't at the time,
right.
You're probably not getting exactly what you want to get. And then the other side of that is I am very, I'll try to think of a word here, black and white, very, if I'm on, I'm on. And, when I determine I'm going to do something or I choose something, I'm going. So, we don't buy any protein. We raise every protein that we eat here, or I get it, from a friend down the road. But there is no grocery store protein coming in this house because I'm, my black and white nature says once we're doing this, we're doing this.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think you bring up a really good point there about when you're talking to someone and they say grass-fed. That could mean so many different things. Even if they say organic or any of these other terms we hear thrown around, the definition is very unique depending upon that farmer. We have the government definition, but then as you talk to farmers, if I say grass-fed, that may mean something totally different from my neighbor saying grass-fed.
Yeah. It's as a consumer, as a regular person buying food, like you got to be an expert. You really need to know your stuff to be able to get exactly what you think you're getting.
Yeah. As you look back on that time, do you think, you mentioned you didn't know what questions to ask. What questions would you tell someone to ask now?
Yeah, I'd want to get the full experience, to get the real answer. I'd say ask them if they'll show you their farm.
Oh, yeah.
Ask if they'll let you on site and what's the animal that I'm going to be eating look like? Where do they live?
Oh, yeah.
Are they inside a barn, or are they out in a little bit more of their natural habitat? I don't think you need to know that, moving an animal more often on pasture is going to result in better soil health and, a better omega-3 fat composition in that animal. I think just seeing it outside is going to be a great start for most people.
Yeah. And I think getting in touch with that farmer, and like you said, if you can go visit that farmer, because the ones who believe in what they're doing, they're going to be like, come on over, I'll show you.
Yeah.
And they'll probably spend too long showing you, to be honest. I know when I have people here and just going to show them just a little bit, it's a full $2 tour.
Yeah. Well, we're so passionate about what we do that it's, you hear Joel Salatin talk about it all the time, that you can go to that place night or day, come and see it all you want. And then you make me think of as well on, Ranching Reboot, which doesn't seem to be around anymore. Brian Alexander says, shake the hand that feeds you.
Oh,
and that's a quote I use all the time. Like, go actually see where it's coming from. Who is the person touching your food?
Oh, yeah. I think that's excellent advice from Brian. You know, so you made that leap. You decided, hey, I'm going to start raising your own protein.
Mm-hmm.
And you decided to start with chickens. Why chickens?
It was good question. I didn't have any experience. It seemed like chickens were simple. And to be honest, at the time, I didn't have intentions to raise anything else.
You were just raising for yourself.
Yeah, and we were just raising eggs, to be honest. We just got some laying
okay.
hens at first. We got some chicks and raised them up and, did all the silly city thing, like raise them in a bedroom in the house and, find poop all over the place the next day. And
it's amazing how much they'll produce.
Yeah. And you know what that's a good story on is that, when you're new to this, every critter is like this. I need to baby it and I need to put it in the house.
Yeah.
And then you start to realize along the same lines that like these are animals that have grown up in nature and, they're meant to do that. So we started with those few chicks. We raised the laying hens. And I think it was that same year that I found out there was a farmer down the road from us that had some young meat birds. So we got, I think, two meat birds that year as well, just to learn a little bit about, what was it like to raise them? What was it like to process them ourselves? And I think it was after that I determined that I needed ruminant. And then, where we were at didn't have we were on a couple acres, which was nice. It was nice and peaceful and, the things that I wanted. But when we moved out there, I didn't know that, larger scale agriculture was where I was planning to end up. So it was in 2020, 2021 that we moved out to our new place here. And, it's enough space that we're going to grow this flock of sheep. And, as I was saying, the goal is just high quality food for our family, and I've got two little girls now. We've got a 16-month-old and a 3.5-year-old girl. And, I'm sure everybody says it. It's so cliche that once you're focused on other people, like those things become so much more important. And, my already very determined drive to create the highest quality food was now just stepped up by, I need to do that not only for me, but for these other people that I love. And I don't, if I put some junk food in my body, it's not the end of the world, but I don't want to, they can make their own choices, but I want to make sure that it's available to them on the highest level.
Oh, right. Yeah.
To have the best start that they're going to be able to have.
Yep.
So it's just passion for food, really.
And Adam, I asked why chickens, but to be honest, I think they're a perfect starting place. There's something you can do, like you said, with 2 acres in town. It's not a great outlay of money to get started. You can raise them in your house for a little while till you get over it. They're a great way to dip your toes into it and figure out, is this something that really interests me? And do I want to continue along that path?
Yeah.
And to add on to the other thing, when you become a parent and you have others depending upon you, as an example, I think back to my own kids. And growing up, we didn't use seatbelts. It just wasn't something we did. We'd jump in the car. They were never used. And I know the laws started changing, but I was very slow to be like, yeah, that's what I need to do. But when my son was born, I decided, he needs to wear a seatbelt all the time. And the only way he's going to wear it all the time is if I'm the example and wear my seatbelt all the time.
Yeah.
So that was really the catalyst that forced me to comply with the state laws that were being passed at the time to start wearing my seatbelt. And now it's just habit. And if I don't put it on, even if I'm just going up the road a little bit, I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's probably really common that we, we're against something for so long, or we don't have the motivation to change. And then that thing happens. You're like, I'm just going to do that for sure. And that was the catalyst to it. And those other people are needy and, you want to be there for them.
Yeah. So you all were able to get more acres once you decided, hey, I want some ruminants. And ruminants take up more land space than chickens do.
Yeah. Yeah, there are a couple things that kind of lined up there. The timing of this was pretty good. We had moved to these couple acres in 2017, And, leading up through 21, the market was a little bit crazy. So we were able to get, enough out of that place that when we moved a little bit further from town, that those dollars stretched. So we were able to go to we're on 100 acres now. And, in the east, that's big. It's not a big farm, but it's enough that we can raise some animals here. And, we were actually able to get this place for less than we sold the other place for.
Oh, yes.
The other place was nice. We didn't buy it as a farm. It had a nicer house on it, and it was people would come by and say, this is a nice place. And then we moved to this place, and it's a 120-year-old house that, people don't say it looks nice. For me, that doesn't matter, right? It was all about being outside and what we could do for the animals. However, I do have a better half, and, she didn't necessarily want to live in a 120-year-old house. So we made a compromise, and we were able to spruce this place up. It's not as nice as the old place, but, now we've got this opportunity to really expand what we're doing, as I said, raise all of our own protein. And then, I still own this gym in town, and where there are a lot of like-minded people. So if I can produce a little bit extra, we've got a group of people that are very happy to put that meat in their freezer and not have to, go to the grocery store and do that.
Yeah, and we'll come back to marketing and selling your product in a little bit, but man, having that audience right there, you already have that connection.
Yeah.
Helpful. That is really nice. So you got moved out to that 100 acres. Was it ready for sheep at the time? Were you ready for sheep? What did you have to do to get the acreage ready and to get yourself ready?
Yeah, good question. It's definitely still not ready. I'm basically a one-man show here. I mean, I'm not, because I do have my wife and my girls, but my wife is very much so, taking care of the girls during the day so that I can do this. Because like you said, there was nothing here. This place had been hayed for the last 5 to 10 years. And before that, it had been commercially, conventionally, chemically tilled and cropped. So, we're in a pretty clay area. So I got here, there's no fence, and the ground is, because I'm not coming from agriculture, I don't know how often typically, the conventional farmer is replanting a hayfield, but I would assume it was probably getting around that time, because there's still a lot of bare ground. It is degraded, I think, as most people in this space would call it. So what I'm doing basically is every year I try to bite off a fencing project. And, depending on kind of how busy I am, I'll either achieve that goal or not. We've got 2 kind of main pastures here. One of them is fully fenced and the other one is not. So I have animals in there just with polywire, and, it's working on my anxiety. But, when there's as much time as I've got, I'm going to do as much as I can. So,
and that's all you can ask of yourself. You have a limited amount of time. You've got your off the farm job as well with your gym. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how much time that takes, but then you have a family. So all those things, you can't just spend 16 hours a day on the farm and go in and sleep and go back to the farm. You've got other commitments. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the key for me is just setting realistic expectations. Mm-hmm. I would have liked to get the animals right when we moved out here, but that just wasn't on the table. So I had to at least get some fencing up, and it was, it's a little bit of a race. I'm just racing against them to try to stay ahead, but it's, it's fun. I'm trying to, and, we'll get into this later, I think, with the 5 a.m. squat club, but I'm trying to focus on the mentality that progress is the goal. If I can take a bite-sized, manageable chunk, action step every day, I don't worry so much about the end goal, because I know I'm going to get there as long as I'm achieving that step for the day.
Right. And you mentioned Justin Rhodes earlier. He talks about being 1% better each day. Yeah. I really like that mentality and going forward like that.
Yeah. I've been a big disciple of Jim Rohn recently. I don't know if you're familiar, but he was kind of Tony Robbins' mentor in the personal development space. And he talks about that same thing. He uses the quote, if you work harder on yourself than you do on your job, then you're probably moving in the right direction. He says the same thing, that, if you get 1% better every day, like by the end of the year, you're 36 times better.
Oh yeah.
Right. It's not, 3 times. It compounds. And I think too many people focus on the end goal and as a result take no steps. But if you just break it down, like, you'd be amazed at where you can get over time.
Oh yeah. Yeah. A little bit of progress consistently makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
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 With you got the place, you've got some area fenced, you made the decision to get sheep.
Yeah.
What kind of sheep did you look for? Where were you able to get them?
Yeah. So when we first came out here, I don't know if I knew I wanted sheep. We actually met up with the farmer who had been haying this ground, and, his wife said, "Hey, you should get sheep because the market's high."
Oh yeah.
And I mean, knowing what I know now, I'd say, well, that's definitely not the good reason to get them. But I think maybe on that advice, I thought, hey, maybe sheep would be a good idea. So. And then the more I started looking into it from the regenerative perspective, the more I understood the value of animals per acre. If you can do it right, I mean, you can triple your equity in a year if you've got a good lambing percentage, which maybe we'll talk about that in a little bit as well. So I got Katahdin sheep because, I had no experience and no interest in shearing sheep. I had heard enough about the fact that the wool market, especially around here, kind of didn't really exist. So it didn't, I was choosing these animals for meat in the first place, so it kind of made sense to go that route. And I was lucky. The more I hear stories about people buying sheep, the more lucky I realize I am with these sheep that I got. I had found, actually, it didn't even exist. I had put a post up on a local Facebook group, it wasn't even a grazing group, it was a sheep group, saying I was looking for low input, regeneratively managed, assuming that wasn't what I was going to find, but that I'd find, maybe close. And I found this lady who wasn't necessarily rotating her animals, but she was very low input. And I think part of that was just she had an injury a couple of years ago, and she basically just started neglecting the sheep. And, the stories that I hear about people buying in a load of sheep and them just falling apart on the property, these things showed up here and we've had very, very little problems with them. And so I think I got very lucky because I didn't necessarily know exactly what I was looking for when I got them.
Yeah.
But I'm very happy with them, and we haven't bought in any sheep since. We do I don't know, maybe if it's an untraditional breeding, if it's called mob breeding. I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but there's a Swedish guy, Bjorn Johansson or something. He talks about this. He was on Richard Perkins. He was also on the Sheep Show podcast a couple of years ago. And in essence, he's trying to be as natural with his breeding as possible, without having animals that can't be managed. So every year he selects the least bad. He doesn't want to select the best, but he selects the least bad, or the ones without issues, lambs, and they all go in to breed. So he doesn't select the best one. He just he takes out the worst and keeps the group of the not bad ones. And then he recycles that every year. So a ram never stays on the farm for more than 18 months. They never breed more than once. And the goal is just creating this epigenetically, advanced creature that thrives in the environment. It allows a little bit more for genetic selection, as opposed to me being able, especially as a new grazer, to be able to choose the best ram, because I don't really know what I'm looking for, right? I mean, he actually gives this advice in one of the podcasts that I listen to, that have people come over to your farm that know nothing about sheep and have them tell you which is the worst one. And it's like, okay, but I tried that and nobody knows anything. I mean, they're all like, I don't know, they all look pretty good.
Oh yeah.
So we've been doing that. It's a closed flock, 100%. I don't plan on bringing in any more genetics, and that's what we're doing.
I think that's interesting. We do something similar. I like to think about, instead of, you take a bull and over 3 generations, you can completely remake your herd. Yeah. Same thing with a flock of sheep. Mm-hmm. Over a few generations, you can remake your sheep flock. But do you want to remake them?
Right.
Are you happy with your maternal herd?
Right.
Whether it's cows, whether it's ewes, does. If you're happy with them, why don't we double down on them, raise male offspring from them,
Yeah.
use those male offspring for breeding, and continue selection through that way and propagating those good genetics you already have in place.
Yet, it coming from this place of not knowing agriculture, it's a little confusing to me, to be honest. I don't know a lot of farmers around here, but I'm close with a guy down the road since we moved out here, and he's the typical cow calfer. They sell all their calves, and then if they want to grow the herd, which they're not doing this point, they bring in heifers ready to breed or whatever.
Oh.
And I'm always thinking, like, your best creatures are the calves you just sold. If you keep those heifers and continue to build up on that, like, you're getting a better and better animal every year, but they don't get any of it.
Oh,
so
yeah.
It's strange to me, but I don't come from here, right? So I don't know what I don't know.
Right. Yeah, and there's people that focus on bringing in replacements. The problem with raising your own replacements outside the cost and time it takes is the attachment you get to those. So it makes you a little bit, I think, and I'm speaking from my own experience. We raise our own heifers.
Yeah.
And so when a drought condition appears and we need to destock a certain amount, we're pretty good about it. But there's that attachment factor that you've raised these genetics and you're really hesitant about letting any go. So that's something you've got to work on, because in a drought situation, you need to destock early rather than debate it and carry on way too long, and then you got yourself a bigger problem.
Yeah. And I mean, I know you've mentioned on there the importance of culling as well, and making sure that the animals that don't fit aren't continuing to breed, to make sure that you're narrowing that thing that you're getting. And I think I probably have not done enough of that yet. So, if we get into a drought situation, which, around here we had a relative drought, which is not the same as out west.
Yeah.
We're very understocked, so it wasn't a problem, but there were a lot of people around here looking for grass. We definitely have some animals that we could cull when we get there. But as you're saying, there's this, especially with a growth mindset, I want to grow that flock.
Oh, yeah.
It's challenging for me to decide, hey, you're out, even though you're still doing a medium job.
Right. You would still produce lambs next year, and I could still sell them.
Yeah. Or eat them.
Or eat them. Yeah. It's a tough one. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you got your sheep, did you immediately, I think you mentioned you're using polywire. Are you using polywire with your sheep? And how did you get them used to polywire? Because I know for a lot of people with flocks, they're using electric netting as opposed to polywire, just for that security, and the sheep seem to stay in better. But that doesn't mean you can't do it with polywire.
Yeah, it's one of those you don't know what you don't know things again, right? We started with netting for the chickens, and I very quickly realized that that's a pain in the butt. So when we got the sheep, I've never put netting around the sheep. We started with polywire day one because I don't know. So the first thing that I did was I've got a relatively solid pen that I can put them in, and I just ran a wire around the outside of it or around the inside of it, so that they would understand that if you touch this and you freak out, you don't keep going forwards, that ideally you come back. And what I'm learning is that training is effective certain times a year, and certain times a year it's less effective.
Oh, yeah.
And I've also, I think, come to the conclusion that that's okay. So what I mean by that is we first started with, I think I may have started with 3 wires at first.
Oh, yes.
That was so tedious that I went down to 2 very quickly. Now I use a single wire. And so what I'm learning is that and I think you've heard this a lot, that if they're not that hungry, then they're not going to push it. But at the same time, it seems to be that there are other factors. I used to be concerned in the spring when the lambs were young, because they'll go under the wire.
Oh, right.
But now I think of that as like an opportunity for them to creep feed, and they always come back. So, I'm not super concerned about that. And what I find is that if the llamas the llamas are with the ewes and the cows are with the rams right now.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that if they're in, the sheep stay because they want to be with those larger critters. I mean, they're all flock animals, and so they want to stay together. And you probably know that cattle are easier to keep in than sheep, so they'll stay there, and then the sheep just kind of stay with them. Yeah. It's definitely not a deterrent for predators. Polywire is not doing anything for coyotes, foxes, and hawks and ravens. So that the wire will keep them in, but it's not necessarily keeping things out.
Right. One thing about the polywire is you start down that story of getting them started, and you didn't know any better. And I hate to even word it that way because it's not really. But what's that quote or that saying? While the people are telling you it can't be done, it's being done by people who didn't know they couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, sometimes there's a lot of advantages to not knowing how it was done before. Yeah. I think in Tom Lasseter's book, he talks about he'd rather make a rancher out of someone who grew up in New York City than someone who grew up on a traditional ranch.
Well, because you have so many preconceived notions that are very hard to change. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. True.
I would say that's definitely an advantage for us that, I'll do anything because I don't know what's right or wrong.
When you got your sheep and got them going, what was something that surprised you?
Oh, good. I don't know. I think again, because I really didn't know anything, everything was a surprise and not a surprise at the same time. Just seeing the variability in, when they would shed off and how some, might get a little bit, dirty on the backside here or there, and how often I moved them, would or wouldn't have an effect on that. The whole idea of trying to get a nice even graze on the ground, that the anxiety of that and whether that was realistic and whether I should mow it after that. I mean, there's so many things that I don't know what we're doing. And we're just trying and seeing what happens. Right.
Right. And you speak to a few of them, we're saying move your cattle, have them graze it to 4 inches. You move your animals after 24 hours. That's not 4 inches out there. None of the animals went out and measured it. And you've got spots that's too short and spots that's too tall. Yeah. So what do you do? And it can be very paralyzing when you don't know. You just got to get out there and do it and try it. And when that happens, tighten them up a little bit and see if that makes them more even graze. You're never going to get it perfect, but as long as you're willing to reflect and then put some of those practices in place and try them and see if it works.
Yeah. And to be honest, like maybe my saving grace in this, and, if I'm thinking about it from that standpoint of, hey, like it should be better, I should be doing a better job. What I always come back to is the food that we're producing is still better than what I'm getting over there.
It is. Exactly right. Yeah.
So, and if we're learning and improving, and it's getting better.
Exactly. Now, what's your target on moving your sheep nowadays? Are you moving weekly, daily?
So there's been a shift, and, I know that you've spoken about life getting in the way here and how sometimes, you plan for something and something changes. This new project that I'm doing I started this in May, this 5 a.m. squat club. And basically up until that point, the sheep had been moved every day. And, I'm this very black and white mentality that if I decide that that's the way it's got to be, I am the idealist in this regenerative world. We're not going to do any vaccines. We're not going to do any hoof trimming. We're not going to do this, and the other thing, and I was set on this daily move thing. And I mean, you could go so far that way and say, I'm going to move them 4 times a day as well.
Oh yeah, you could.
But I think I'm being a little bit more understanding of, life here. And so I still aim to move the ewes every day. But I'm okay if I know something's coming up, I'll give them a bit bigger piece and they can have 2 or 3 days. And for some reason, the rams, I've always moved them less frequently. I don't know why that is. And my wife will say, well, it doesn't make any sense. What are you doing? I don't know if it's just my underlying thought that because they're not lactating, they don't need as good or they don't need as quick a move. But I don't know. So I'll give them, and to be honest, one of the factors is I don't think I have enough reels to get them moving as often. So the cows and the rams are getting a bigger strip, and they're moving, maybe every 4 days or so. So we're still moving pretty often, but not as much necessarily as I would have wanted originally.
Oh, yeah. And that's the way it goes. Just do what you can and strive to do, like you said, make a little progress, do a little bit better each day.
Yeah.
You mentioned in there you've got a couple llamas running with your sheep. How's the llamas? How do they take to the moves? How are they earning their keep as guardian animals?
Yeah, I mean, some of those I can answer and some of those I can't. They move pretty well. They have gotten out once or twice, but it's never intentional. They accidentally walk through a wire and then they're freaked out and won't come back in. So they're definitely trained well to the wire and move pretty well. It's the same as I think pigs. When you move an electric wire out of the way, they think it's still there. Maybe they're smart, maybe they're just extra terrified. I don't know. And then in terms of their protection, before this lambing season, I would have said they were fantastic. We had some issues this lambing season, but I don't necessarily know if I want to blame the llamas. I am definitely a proponent of the, extreme ownership, like take accountability. We've got this local program that if you lose animals to a predator, that an assessor will come in, and if they deem it predator, they'll pay you. And I will not take that money. If an animal dies here, it's my fault, right? I have mismanaged, or there's a process I could have done better, or whatever. So I don't want to take taxpayer dollars for that. That being said, we had a tough lambing this year. Some of the things were, we probably had them too far from the house. Maybe I want to have some.
I think that makes a difference. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I want to have a noisemaker out there or something. My wife's theory is the flock was pretty close to the house, and I don't know if you can see or hear this thing bouncing around in the background, but we have a 9-month-old border collie, and when they were around the house, she was young, and she was able to get up right against the fence and would run at them and bark at them and whatnot. And her thought is maybe that desensitized the llamas to canines. I don't know, but hey. At the same time, we lost at least 2 or 3 lambs to aerial predators. So I don't see the llamas having any effect on that. A dog might, but we've got ravens, we've got hawks, we've got turkey vultures, and they all like lambs. So we need to rethink our strategy for next year a little bit. I don't know if I want to go the dog route, but we need to address it a little bit for sure.
If you don't mind, what makes you think you're not sure about doing livestock guardian dog?
Yeah, well, a couple things. First is I didn't want to necessarily have to add another step, another feeding. I didn't want to have to bring out dog food for these things. The llamas graze with the sheep and they're all on the same page. And then the other consideration is, maybe very specific to us, is right across the road, there's a place called Avalon Ranch. And they're a dog training, testing, jumping. Yeah. So they do dock jumping and they do dog agility. So there are constantly dogs over there. They have 10 of their own. And, you hear that Great Pyrenees or whatever like to walk and roam. And if that thing goes on the road, it's a pretty busy road that we're on as well. So that's really my concern about a dog, that I get attached to it and get hit by a car. And so that's kind of where we're at.
And I think those are all valid concerns. And I know even for me, when I think about running sheep or goats on leased land, I'm thinking about I put dogs over there. In one place, neighbors got a few dogs that'll come right over to my fence. I'm like, that's going to be a problem. Mm-hmm. So those concerns are very valid. On my experience with Great Pyrenees, and this is my experience, they roam terribly. But when I went with an Anatolian Shepherd and I have Akbash, I don't have the roaming issue. Yeah. So, of course, that may be more the family and where I got them from, rather than the breed. So it goes back to know your breeder. Yeah. Shake the hand wherever you get them, even though this is not the protein you're eating, but they are animals you're bringing in. Yeah. I had llamas. I still have a llama. I like the llama. it's fine with my dogs. We have a donkey out with the sheep too. So
Okay.
trying to cover all bases. The llama, for a while, I thought they were wonderful. And then like you, we had some issues and I decided the llama's not worth anything.
Right.
But since then, I watched the llama chase a coyote out of the pasture.
Okay.
So
that's good to hear.
when you see that happen, you're like, oh, okay. Maybe I take back those words I may have said in anger.
Yeah. Well, so a couple questions. Did you have the donkey at first, or was he or she added later? And then, sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
No, go ahead with your question.
I was just going to say the other thing that we heard, and maybe this was just the lady trying to sell us more llamas, was she said you got to have two because one, I don't know, gets lonely or something.
I personally think when I had more llamas, they didn't stay with the flock as good as when there's a single llama.
Right.
So, and we had the llamas. I had Great Pyrenees. And sometime in there, we got a BLM donkey.
Okay.
And we adopted him, paid the fee, got him. He's turned out really good. He's bonded with the sheep. He stays with the sheep. I do have some fences that the sheep will go under. And if they go under and they're in another pasture, he's against that fence, just beside himself till we let him in there.
Okay.
He has turned out to be a little rough during lambing.
I have heard that.
Yes, he will pick up a lamb and throw it.
Ooh.
I've seen him do that. Now, when they get older,
They're fine.
he has a few bad habits, but for the most part, it's not a problem. But with those baby lambs, it is.
That's what I've heard.
When we're lambing, I don't want him with them.
Okay.
The llama, I don't mind. And then the dogs I have now were brought in after the donkey and llamas were here. And they don't have a problem with each other. They're all part of the group.
Big happy family.
Yeah. Now, the llama is actually kind of a loner, the one I have now. So maybe my theory about a flock of llamas versus one llama is not accurate because she doesn't stay with the flock as much as I would like for her to.
Oh.
So I don't know. So it's an interesting question. I would have said one is better than multiple, but as I think about her, and she's getting up there in age.
Okay.
I have no idea how old she was when I bought her.
Right.
I've had her, I don't know, 15 years.
Wow.
I've had her a long time.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, because I had her when we got sheep because I had goats before and I had them with goats. And I've had sheep for 10 years. And so sometime prior to that, I got her. So
Wow.
I don't know how old she is.
Yeah. How long do they live?
I don't really know, to be honest.
Let's find out.
My knee-jerk reaction would be 20, 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
But someone could say, nope, it's 10 years, and I couldn't argue with them. I don't know why I think it's 20 or 25, other than I think a horse will live about that long, so maybe
Right.
a llama will. I don't know where that number comes from.
I think that's what I've heard as well, somewhere around 20.
Yeah. It's probably something I read sometime that I just didn't fully internalize, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I do like the llama. I like the donkey with them. I like the dogs. And I feel like when I had just the llama and just the donkey, I had more losses.
Yeah.
Once I got the dogs, it really made a difference.
I mean,
but it's a tough deal, especially in your situation with the dogs across the road. How's that going to affect yours? When you're using electronetting, you can control some of that, but you're not using electronetting, and that polywire is not going to slow a dog down very
No.
fast.
Yeah, it was actually the advice of the lady across the road to not get a dog.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
seems like good advice, but we'll see. Because I mean,
Yeah.
the sheep's lives are pretty important.
They are. And I completely agree with, the llama's eating the same thing as your sheep. Your donkey or a donkey would be the same. That's one of the reasons like my sheep, I'm not going to move, not the main flock, but the smaller flock with goats. I'm not moving them today, but I still have to go visit them because I don't have a self feeder for the dogs in there.
Right. Right.
So then they still need their food today. So
Yeah.
I have to go visit them, make sure they get food every day.
Yeah. Yeah. I try to, I mean, not efficiently, but I'm trying to, reduce the number of stops every day, right? Especially
Right.
I'm not a full-time farmer, right? So it's got to be somewhat efficient.
Right, exactly. Yeah. You mentioned very early on, we really haven't talked about your cattle, and you bring them in the spring and you process them later in the year.
Hmm.
So tell us a little bit about your cattle enterprise.
Yeah, so this is new. I mean, we've had the sheep for a few years. Last year we had our first cattle on the place,
Oh, okay.
and I've got a experience from that I will not do again. I'll tell you a little story there. Because I have no experience buying cattle, and I don't know a lot of people, and the market is so high that you talk to the guy down the road and he's like, it doesn't make any sense for me to sell you that. I can sell that calf for $3,000, and
Oh.
I can't sell it to you for any more. So the first one we got last year, I had a local truck driver basically pick one up at the sale barn. I hadn't seen it, brought it here, and she looked mostly, it was a Hereford heifer, or
Oh, yeah.
mostly at least. And, she was kind of a little bit skinny when she got here. And, I think she did pretty well over the year and, put on weight. And then the guy that picked her up came to take her to the processor. And he was like, hey, you did a great job. She looks real good. And I don't know if you've ever heard this, but I called the processor a few days later to give them my cut instructions. And they said, your meat has been condemned. So I guess, I don't know when they opened her up what they saw, or... So that was not a positive first experience raising beef.
Did they give you a reason for it being condemned?
No, I got no reason. They just said the inspector said it was no good. So, I mean, she had a runny nose. I don't know if that means, she had pneumonia but she gained weight. Well, I don't know. So, this year,
Well, first off, that
Sorry.
really hurts.
Oh, yeah.
As you're trying to do this and you're planning on that protein, and then you take her and the meat gets condemned. And in my experience, we've not had that happen. I would be curious what caused it. Was there disease? Did they open her up and find parasite load, some kind of disease in there?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I would be very curious to know that as well, for sure. So, I mean, I want to say that I learned a lesson from that. And, that lesson was like, know where you're getting. I mean, shake the hand if you're right.
Right.
So I did a lot of work to find someone local who was doing something in line with what we wanted to do. And I was able to do that. But, in the same way, it's been very challenging because of the market prices for calves and the price for beef, that somebody who's producing that is unlikely to want to sell live animals, because there's just so much more money in selling that live animal at the sale barn or as beef. So, I went over and toured this guy's farm and was saying, hey, like, this is what we'd like to do. Ideally, what I'd like to do is buy some open cows. I want something that's just gonna, that's gonna have a little bit of good taste to it because it's got some age on it. But at the same time, it's going to fatten up over the summer here pretty well because it's open. So we were able to, pull 3 out of them. We got 2 cows and a heifer here, and they're low-lying Angus.
Oh, okay.
So they're, I mean, I don't have a scale, but I would guess that the 2 cows are probably around 1,000, 1,100 pounds. They're pretty short, but they're nice and round, and the process has been great. I mean, last year was great too. I mean, I thought she was doing well. She fit right in with the crew. She moved every day with them. So I mean, who knows?
Right. Yeah.
Hopefully all goes well, right?
So your plan for these animals, are you planning on keeping them as breeding stock, or are you planning on processing them?
We're going to process them. I'm not sure if I plan on breeding cattle. And just because our winters are so long and the idea of feeding cows over the winter is daunting. I like the idea of bale grazing. I don't really want to start the tractor. So I'm not there yet. Maybe someday we will. I think really what would make me do that is if I can't get, call them stalkers in the spring that I can raise and butcher. If that becomes impossible to find, then I would consider going that route and actually breeding our own. But it's not really on my radar right now, to be honest.
Right. As long as you can source the right kind of animal, it's better for you at this point to source them. And there's a lot of validity to that for anyone as we think about getting started. It's a much shorter turnaround to see some kind of income from them. You're growing them for a season. You're staying out of the season that's going to cost the most money, and that's winter, because you're going to have to bring feed to them. It may require housing depending on where you are, lots of things there. So I think it's a very valid way to start and see how it goes for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I've heard a number of people on these shows that, that do that to manage their grass during the growing season. And, same here, like we're definitely not going to be able to eat all this grass with the sheep flock. So bringing in some animals to just cut that down a little bit more is going to be better for the ground as well. And then at the same time, we get some beef out of it. We'll probably be able to sell one of these this year as well. So I think it's a win-win. And hopefully, we'll be able to increase the amount of head that we bring in for the next couple of years as the carrying capacity of the land increases as well.
And as your experience grows, as you know more, Now, you mentioned you'll have one to market maybe. How are you marketing your animals, or are you just raising enough for your own consumption?
Yeah, so the primary goal is for our own consumption. I want to support my family. I didn't mention my wife is a naturopathic doctor, so like we're health promotion through and through, right?
Yes.
And so we want to make sure that food is available for us. But then at the same time, if we can produce more, which will be the goal as we grow the flock and we bring in more cattle, then I don't know if I mentioned this before the podcast or if it was while we were recording, but I own a gym in 40 minutes from here, but in town, where I've already got people asking for it. So that meat is basically pre-sold. As long as we're able to get it to the butcher and we don't have any problems, then it's pretty much gone already. So and I don't see myself having much problem as that. If we're able to scale that up, I think we'll be able to sell it pretty easily just within that community.
I think a lot of times we need to stop and think about, a lot of times we want to focus on our unfair disadvantage. We all have it, but we need to focus on that unfair advantage we have.
Yeah.
And you having a gym, I think, is an unfair advantage. That's just a great way, because that's like your ideal customer, someone who's concerned about health, that's concerned about where their food comes from. It's just synergy.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I see the whole journey as one process, right? It's just it's from fitness to agriculture. I mean, they're all with the same end goal of what I was originally aiming for, personal human health, but it extends as well to the land as well, and what we're able to improve there too.
And Adam, we're getting ready to shift gears just a little bit and change topics. On the topic of your farm and what you're doing, is there anything that I didn't ask that you were like, hey, I'd like to share that?
Not specifically that direction, but I mean, if I can ask you a question. I mean, I know you don't necessarily do a grazing dairy, but your background in dairy is likely helpful. The idea of having milk here is definitely interesting. Our whole country is pasteurized, right? It is illegal to sell raw milk in this entire country. So, for the same reason that I'd want to have it for my family, not necessarily to sell because I couldn't, is that, I know you guys have had a family dairy cow as well, aside from the enterprise, aside from the work that goes into that, is that something that someone like myself should consider?
If you have the bandwidth available, I love the idea of a family milk cow. I love raw milk from where where it's sourced. There's some risk with raw milk.
Sure.
But if you are taking care of the animal and you're knowing and you're being extra sanitary with the process, those risks should be very minimal. I like to tell people, raw milk's stunning my growth. Now, when I say that, I'm 6'4".
Aren't you like 6'5"?
Yeah. My brother is 6'9" and my dad's 6'6". So the joke doesn't work as good on podcasts because you can't see how tall I am.
Yeah.
But if I was in person, the joke works a little bit better when I tell them I'm the runt.
Well, only relative to them.
Right. Yeah. To them. Right. Yeah. Exactly.
You're huge compared to me.
I love the idea. It's just, you got to be able to commit to that work. And I also, the other thing is find someone in that area who's knowledgeable about dairy cattle,
Right.
because grazing dairy animal, they're requiring more energy, more protein. You got to have better forages.
Yeah.
And cover crops really help in that. Or you're going to be feeding some alfalfa hay or feeding them something depending upon what your goals are with it. Because you
Right.
could go a concentrate, but most time if you got a family milk cow, you're not wanting to do concentrates.
No.
You're going to have to source alfalfa pellets or something along that line.
Yeah.
Alfalfa hay to help with that, unless you can get your forages up to quality. It really is beneficial to have someone local to help you. Just because, I think I've said this before, grazing sheep and beef cows are like grazing 101. Grazing a dairy cow or any lactating animal that you're pulling the milk from, not just lactating for their offspring. That's like grazing 404. That's like a senior level or graduate level.
Yeah. I think I heard you say that on 2 weeks ago. I think we were talking.
Yeah, I think Wyatt
dairy.
was on just a couple of weeks ago, and
Yeah.
I probably said that on that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I need to.
I love the idea if you can commit the time to it, and I think find that mentor.
I think realistically, I need to graduate Grazing 101 and get the girls a little bit older so that they may be able to help out with that.
Hey, I love that idea too, because it's a commitment every day, and if you've got a few people that can do it, it really helps.
That's the goal. That's the goal. We don't have as many kids as you do, but I'd like more if possible.
Oh, yeah. As we switch gears into our overgrazing section, we're going to target a little bit different than our usual subjects. At Redmond, we know that you thrive when your animals do. That's why it's essential to fill the gaps in your herd's nutrition with the minerals that they need. Made by nature, our ancient mineral salt and conditioner clay are the catalyst in optimizing the nutrients your animals get from their forage. Unaltered and unrefined, our minerals have the natural balance and proportion that your animals prefer. This gives your herd the ability to naturally regulate their mineral consumption as they graze. Our minerals won't just help you improve the health of your animals, but will also help you naturally build soil fertility so you can grow more nutrient-dense pasture year after year. Nourish your animals, your soil, and your life with Redmond. Learn more at redmondagriculture.com. Today, we're going to talk about fitness. And this is an area that's important to me because I need to do a better job. I tell my wife, I'm going to work out. I'm going to get a gym membership. And she likes to remind me, I used to have a gym membership, but the only time I went was to get the gym membership. So that doesn't make sense. So let's talk about fitness for farmers. Let's talk about what you're doing.
Sure. Yeah. So, this was kind of an evolution along that same path. I've been teaching fitness my whole life, but when we moved out here to the farm, my business is at a place that you asked earlier how often I'm there, and I'm not there too much from that business standpoint. I might be in 2 days a week.
Oh, yeah.
But also as a result of that, when I used to work out 4 or 5 days a week, now that's a huge challenge because I'm just not getting in there. And, not only that, it would be, it'd probably be detrimental to the progress on the farm if I was driving 40 minutes to the gym and 40 minutes back often enough to actually get a lot of benefit out of the fitness.
Right.
So, because I've got all these things that I want to get done here and I've got these fitness goals, that's why I started this new morning routine. And, you were saying you grew up on a dairy and you've been a morning person your whole life. I have been the opposite. I use this story of, it might have been 5 years into owning the gym. We had gotten to the place where I'd hired some coaches and I didn't need to be there all the time.
Oh, yeah.
And my wife went in, I think she did the 7 a.m. class, and she came home and I would still be sleeping because I didn't need to get up, and my life wasn't super busy, and
Yeah.
It's just the way it was, right? But now I've forced myself. I get up at 4:30 every morning, and there's a series of things that I do just to make sure that I hit certain goals every day. We were talking about that daily progress, and so this routine involves a little bit of mindset work, a warm up, a workout, but then there's this call to action, right? The reason it's not the 6 a.m. squat club is because I want to have at least an hour after I'm, fired up, after I'm ready to start the day, before the girls wake up, so that I can make progress on something. And, I think the reason why it may be more to, probably to farmers as well, I was going to say homesteaders, is that, we choose this life for the lifestyle and for the benefits that it brings to the land and to our health. But oftentimes it's not super lucrative. So, a lot of people are either on YouTube or they've got a podcast, so they've got some sort of way to share their message. Right. So this is the idea, that you finish your morning routine that fires up your mind and your body, and then you sit down and you assign yourself an hour of whatever it is. And the way that we talk about it is you've got this goal, so I've got this farm, but on the side, I want to find a way to create some income so that I can support this farm. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to break it down into a daily step that I'm going to do every day. If it's learning a new skill, I'm going to read 10 pages of this book every day. And that's my daily skill, daily action. And what I've found is it just takes the anxiety out of most things. If I can take my goal and break it down into that step, if I just do the step, I don't worry about the end goal. I know that if I plan it out properly, that those steps are going to line up to that goal. So every day I've just got that decision to make. Am I going to do that step or not? And then it's a win. I'm done for the day, basically, with my decision making. I know I've got to do my chores and all that afterwards anyways, but I've won in the morning. I've made progress.
Oh yeah. Getting that early morning win is so important to your mindset and success during the day.
Yeah. Yeah. So, it's become beneficial to me to the point where it's now a product that I put out. Every day on YouTube, I'm live at 4:45 a.m., which for most people is a little crazy, especially if you're on the West Coast, because we're on the East Coast.
Oh, yes.
And it was what I was doing for a while was editing the videos and producing them. And I started thinking about it. It's the 5 a.m. squat club, but these things are coming out at 8:30. It kind of doesn't really work. So now we do it live, and I'm able to communicate with other people who are doing it. And, I'm able to give a little bit of coaching, which is neat because, that's something that you're going to miss if you're just doing workouts at home. And the other thing, and this is probably atypical of exercise programs, is I speak my mind a little bit. So each day we've got a topic that we dig into. And this morning was why you should eat more animals. So today's workout was a special one. If you can see, there's that's a rock from the field wrapped in blankets. The idea was to have a sandbag, but I don't have one. So I grabbed a rock and put it on my shoulder and chatted about food for half an hour, basically. So the idea is that, we're making progress in the morning before our lives start during the day, so that we're not just maintaining, we're able to take steps towards those new things, those new goals.
So it sounds very much, it's mindset and fitness.
Yeah. Yeah. And then that kind of, and whether it's effective or not, I'm not sure, because I keep talking about it and I'm doing it. But at the end of the workout, we talk about that homework hour is what I call it, because, it's great. It's great to get fired up. But then if you go and start staring at your phone and scrolling after that, it's beneficial. You've gotten the benefit of the exercise, but, could you have taken that state, in the morning when we're most clear and our testosterone is the highest and we can really take action there? Do I want to waste that time? I used to be an evening scroller, right? The girls would go to bed and I would come downstairs and I would mindlessly stare at YouTube and put things in my face that I probably shouldn't put in. And then I'd look at not a watch because I don't wear them, but I would look at the clock and it'd be 2 hours past my bedtime. But with this, I got to get up. So there's no choice. I have to, bedtime is 9:30 at the latest because 4:30 is coming up. And it's amazing how it's forced me to maintain that routine, which is getting me better sleep. It's making sure it's really improved everything.
I love routines like that, in that accountability to someone else to be there.
Yeah.
I know when my wife and I both went back to school, and she was getting her teaching degree and I was getting an advanced degree in educational leadership, we were doing it online. And so a lot of evenings we would come home and we were forced to do schoolwork, write a paper, talk to some people, do some reading, something. We were forced to do it. Once we finished, then it's so easy to come home, and then when you go to bed at the end of the evening, you're like, what did I accomplish? I accomplished nothing. I sat down, I was worn out, I was tired. I didn't do anything but turn on the TV and just had some mindless video going. Just so I didn't have to worry about anything. But we miss that growth that we need. We need, in my opinion, and for me, maybe it's just for me, other people may not need it. I need that accountability and that end goal working towards somewhere, because it's not that working out or doing the 5 a.m. squat club one day changes your life. It's the ongoing process and it becoming a routine. Then you look back, because once I finished that schooling, doing one day of schooling did nothing. But when I look back at the end, oh, I've got this degree. And, when I started, I was like, I'll never be able to get this finished. And now I'm looking back saying, that wasn't that bad. Now, if you'd asked me on some of those days, I would have said it was that bad. But once you're finished, you don't remember that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think what I'm learning is that it's about creating an identity, right? It's about believing that I am that person.
Identity.
And what I'm really learning is it's not about that first. It's about taking the actions that person would do first. So, at what point do I become a farmer? Is it when I think about it for 5 years, or is it when I get the animals and start doing the thing?
Oh, yeah.
So, I look at it that way, as if I can do the thing, I'm going to start to believe that I'm that person. I am a farmer, or I'm an exerciser, or I'm a early morning person. But it doesn't come until you do it. It's almost a flip flop of what we think. We think that we'll think about it and we'll magically become that, but it takes the action first.
I listened to a podcast called Don't Write That Book with A.J. Harper and Mike Michalowicz.
I know Mike Michalowicz. I've read some of his books.
Oh, I love his books. In fact, actually, wrong earlier. Yeah, I have one of his books on my shelf right behind me. I think the others I have in electronic form. I think that one I have physical and electronic because I really like that book. Mm-hmm. But they talk about on their podcast, it's for authors writing books. They're like, you're writing your book, you've got to start identifying as an author.
Yeah.
Because you're never going to get there till you identify as that.
Yeah.
But that identity is so important but you've got to be doing something to get there, but you've got to work on that identity. And that's so important to your progress and your evolution.
Yeah. I think you make a good point there, that the identity, and I think a lot of people before they start something have that imposter syndrome. They think because they haven't done the thing that I can't say that I'm the thing. But if you just start doing it, the imposter syndrome goes away because you have experience. And then you can say, well, this is what I've done.
Yeah. And Adam, for some people that may work that way. I still have imposter syndrome on a podcast, and we're approaching 200 episodes.
Wow.
I have imposter syndrome as a grazer.
No way.
And I've grazed animals for years. So maybe for some of us, it takes longer to get past that.
There you go. Absolutely. Yeah. But I think we all have things that we, as you were saying, an unfair advantage. There's things that each one of us, as long as we can see them, right? If you start looking, you'll notice there's something that you have that is better than other people, that makes your mission easier, better, more efficient, whatever.
And focus on the advantage, not the disadvantage.
Yeah. Yeah.
That makes a world of difference. Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit about if someone wanted to, hey, this 5 a.m. squat club sounds good to me.
Yeah.
What do we need to do?
Nothing. It's the name of my YouTube channel. If you can't join us live, then the replay is always recorded. obviously, if you're live, I can help you directly. I can see your comments, but I know not a lot of people. It's still a relatively new thing. We started May 1st, but I've been doing it every day. So, I mean, it's day 122 today.
Oh, very good.
And yeah, some people watch it afterwards and, you just follow along. I explain everything. I talk scaling options. If you're brand new, you can do this option. If you've been doing it for a while, you can start aiming for these things. And, because we do it every day, you get that a little bit of feedback and it's a different workout every day. So, we generally do a 10-minute workout in there. It's relatively high intensity, all functional movements. I come from a place where we exercise for a purpose, not for an aesthetic, right? And the more I work on this farm, the more that becomes more and more important, because who cares what your bicep looks like if you can't get the trailer out of the mud, like you can't,
right.
You put that post in the hole and it's the wrong angle and you got to get it back out or whatever. Like bicep curls aren't going to help you in that moment. So, we try to do things that are real life, like as I was saying, that rock on my shoulder this morning, it's a real thing. I'm always picking up rocks out here. So,
oh yeah.
We try to keep it relatively intense and short so that, you can get back to the things that are important afterwards.
Oh, very good. Very good. And we'll put a link into it to the 5 a.m. Squat Club in our show notes. So
Thank you.
Our listeners have a quick way to find you. Really appreciate you discussing that. And I think even though it's not directly grazing related, I think it's a very important topic.
I think, you see a lot of farmers that are old and broken down and, I almost see farming as a sport in terms of the physical aspect of it.
Oh, yeah.
We get people that come in and they say, hey, I play soccer and they've got injuries all over the place. And I'm like, well, sport is not the way to get fit, right? Build a base of fitness so that you can do your sport and, look at farming as a sport. So build a base of fitness so that when you go out and, you're putting an implement on the tractor or you're digging a hole or whatever, like you have that base to support those activities.
Right. Yeah, I think that's an excellent viewpoint, Adam.
Yeah.
Yeah. Adam, it is time we switch to our famous 4 questions.
Cool.
Same 4 questions we ask of all of our guests. Our very first question, what is your favorite grazing grass related book or resource?
I haven't been doing a lot of books recently. It's definitely been mostly podcasts just because we're going. And,
Yes.
I don't know if it's not allowed, but I'm going to say yours is definitely one of my top.
Thank you.
I listen every week. I mean, there are a few others in this space that are fantastic. There's Herd Quitter, I think became Ranching Returns.
Yes.
And then, oh my goodness, I'm going to get them all wrong here. Obviously Ranching Reboot, which doesn't exist anymore. It seems, anybody know anything about him?
No, I know he posted that he was taking a break for a little while, but he thought he would come back at some point. And that was, a year ago at this time?
It seems like it was a while,
9 months ago? Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, working cows, like I do a lot of those. I actually also listen to, and this may be less common for your listeners, Joel Salatin and his counterpart there, her name is Sina McCullough. They do a podcast called Beyond Labels. And it's kind of the intersection of ag and food and how, consumers can become more aware, of these types of things like greenwashing and whatnot that's happening in the industry. So a lot of podcasts for sure.
Yeah. I think podcasts are an excellent resource. Of course, I probably have a very biased view on that, but I think they're great.
They're fantastic. The long form is really the only way to get into a real topic.
Right. Yeah. Our second question, what's your favorite tool for the farm?
Yeah, I think Hobbs may have said this the other day and I loved it. And my wife will not listen to this, so it's okay. And I'm going to say her, I'm not calling her a tool in any way, but none of what I do, none of what I do here would happen without her support. So I think that's the prime bottom level of it, that if that's not there, who cares what other tools I have, because it doesn't exist.
A supportive spouse, whether or not they're physically involved in the farming exercise, is so beneficial.
Yeah.
And I say that my wife, she has no desire to go move cows, no desire to move sheep.
Yeah.
She will go look at them with me if I don't hit too many bumps, but she fully supports me, and that's an amazing feeling.
I like that.
Our third question, what would you tell someone just getting started?
I mean, I'm the take action guy, right? I mean, start doing it, right? Take a small chunk, take a small bite out of it. Maybe you get a chicken. I mean, if you've already got chickens, maybe it's the first ruminant, but I'm all about taking a step. Just don't overthink it because you're going to be dead. Do it. Do it now.
I screenshotted something on my phone earlier when I was doing some mindless scrolling that I shouldn't have. Let me pull it up because I remember. Oh, I don't know if this will show. When I'm ready, I'll start. But it shows, let's see if I can get that up there. It shows a person progressing through their life. I'll start when I'm ready.
Perfect.
Or when I'm ready, I'll start. You got to get started now. I screenshotted that because I thought, that's such a good reminder.
Worked out.
I was showing some pictures to my daughter on the phone the other day. And she's like, from my trip to Utah, I was showing her pictures. And I said, here's some screenshots. She says, wait, what are you screenshotting? And most of the time it's this inspirational stuff. And she's like, that's really interesting, your screenshots.
Hey, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, exactly. And lastly, Adam, where can others find out more about you?
I mean, we have a small presence for the farm. We've got a website and Instagram profile. It's all at Hoof and Beak. And then the 5 a.m. Squat Club is 5 a.m. Squat Club on YouTube, on Instagram, on TikTok, which those two I don't put too much effort to. It's really the YouTube channel, and we're 5amsquatclub.com is the website, but it doesn't get a lot of attention either because it's really about the program on YouTube.
Oh yeah, very good, very good. And before we leave today, Adam, do you have another question for me?
I don't have a question. I just have a thank you. As a first generation farmer, these resources have allowed me to go in what I would call the right direction, and not
excellent.
Start in just, by looking down the road and seeing what everybody else is doing and end up with as opposed to a rotational overgrazing, a just overgrazing,
Right. Yeah.
I'm okay with the rotational overgrazing. I'm not okay with the set stock. So it's the resources, that you and the others provide they're invaluable. Thank you.
Well, thank you for saying that. One issue I have with podcasting is the conversation is very one directional. I get to talk to my guests on here. It's very beneficial to me. I think it's beneficial to my listeners. And I say I think. I know it is because I've been told it numerous times.
Yeah.
But sometimes that conversation feels very one-directional. Mm-hmm. And that's one reason we added the Grazing Grass community on Facebook was to have bi-directional conversations. But it's always great to get feedback that it is making a difference like you believe it is.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I thank you very much.
Well, Adam, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing today.
I appreciate you having me. Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed learning about Adam's journey from health into producing his own animals and even to the point of getting to where he can sell some of his own. I find a lot of people when they start really focusing on their health and deciding what they want to put in their bodies, that they're going more towards this regenerative grazing, grass-fed, to really appreciate that about his journey. And I really love his mindset. Just a little bit each day over time makes a big difference. And that's where his 5 a.m. Squat Club comes in. I have planned on catching it, and I have caught one of them. So I need to do a better job. But I love that every day doing something, just a little bit more. Progress takes time. And progress is progress, no matter how small. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with someone who would enjoy it. If you haven't gave us a review wherever you listen, we love 5-star reviews. It helps get the word out about the podcast. And until next time, keep on grazing grass.